Well, hi, we're back.
Yeah, we are.
Here we are. And I came across an article a little while ago about ultra processed foods. And I was kind of shocked because it was saying that 73% of all the food in the stores in America are ultra processed. And it just was kind of a smack up the
Wow,
side of the head. It's like
that's amazing.
73%. Well, let's look into this a little more deeply. And so we thought we'd talk about that a little bit today. And I went on the web and looked up the definition. And here's Wikipedia's definition. An ultra processed food is an industrially formulated edible substance derived from natural food or synthesized from other organic compounds. The resulting products are designed to be highly profitable, convenient, and hyper-palatable, often through food additives such as preservatives, colorings, and flavorings. Kind of scared me.
Wow.
That's what we're eating so much of these days, thinking that we're going to be healthy that way. There was another definition too that said ultra processed foods have undergone an extensive transformation of the original food and often contain only extractions of it. So you get the idea. And when I read these things and when I heard the term, it seemed like that's probably this category of food that's kind of, there's not that much of it out there. But, when it says 73% of the shelves are stocked with this ultra processed foods, what are they talking about? So, what they're talking about is like the reprocessed, reconstituted processed meats, like the hams and the hot dogs that are out there. I always put those as kind of in the category, well, they're meat, but they're highly processed. There's not much of the original left there. It's full of fillers and flavors. Anyway, I'm getting a little lost here. But, in that category is also our potato chips and frozen French fries, of course, candy, the store-bought cookies that are out there, soft drinks. I mean, think about it. I mean, we joke about that all the time. Coca-Cola, what's that? It's kind of colored sugar water.
True.
And so where's the nutrition?
With caffeine, which or whatever that gives it a hit of
Yeah,
energy.
sugar and caffeine, that'll keep you hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically these foods that are really highly caloric. And the downside is that they've been so processed, they don't have much nutritional value. So, what to do? Um, I look back on my experience in terms of wanting to get healthy. And, I shifted to a vegetarian diet way back in the 70s. And because I thought vegetarian would be healthy. And I look back on it now and I see how basically what I was eating was ultra processed foods.
True.
Uh, Potato chips, French fries, ice cream. I mean, that was so great because, it's all vegetarian. I can just eat whatever I want. Didn't make that distinction between the high nutrient dense foods, which is the whole foods, and the ultra processed. And of course, that led to the conditions that I had that fortunately Connie recognized as being a nutritional issue,
Yeah.
not a physiological issue. So there's like four forms that seem to really seriously affect the food in an adverse way. And that's the refining of grains. And we've talked about that before. You take away the bran, you take away the fiber. In that processing, you expose the grain, the nutrients that are in there to the air. So it starts to oxidize and you start losing the potency of the nutrients that are in there. So rather than refined grains and having pancakes or bread or biscuits or that, we eat whole grain. And like the recipe we're going to share with you today, it's a delicious salad, but it has whole grains as the
Yeah.
basis.
I used sweet brown rice. I wanted a good texture, a full texture in the grain, and barley, which is a very full textured grain. and oat groats, the whole oat itself. It was so delicious
Yeah, it is
as
so
a
good.
mix. Yeah.
And I really notice when I eat the whole grains, especially in a delicious salad like that, my body kind of wakes up and goes, "Oh, thank you." And I don't eat bread or biscuits or that anymore, but I remember not that long ago when I was still eating them, occasionally when I would have it, it's like this little voice inside would kind of say, "Well, why are you eating that?"
Yeah.
It like notice the difference in, I'm thinking, notice the difference in the nutrient density. And so I can look back and see how my food choices used to be all around that taste, and everything that these ultra processed foods have been designed to actually stimulate that, basically that dopamine rush, because you get that high calorie intake and it's real easy to digest. So it goes into the bloodstream right away and you kick in the dopamine. So it's like,
That's why it was designed that way, so we would become addicted.
yeah, I remember that old Frito-Lay's potato chip ad where a little kid was getting on a school bus and he holds the bag up, I think it was, to the bus driver and says, "Bet you can't eat only one." I thought that was so cute because it was so true. And I didn't put it together with the fact that what he's talking about is food addiction. We get addicted to this stuff because we want that dopamine hit. We have one bite, the dopamine goes, "Oh, that was good." And right away kind of starts to subside and we go, "Oh, let's get that again." And so we have another one and we just
True.
kind of keep eating.
Yeah.
And pretty soon we're overeating. To satisfy that, let's have one more bite to get that feel good of the food as opposed to nourishing our bodies.
Well, that's the reason all this highly processed food that has very low, if any, nutrient that we've become addicted to has created this overweight and obesity epidemic.
Yeah.
And it isn't the overweight part, it's what the overweight does to our health. It's kind of the foundation, the inflammatory foundation of most of the chronic diseases we see today.
Yeah.
And it all starts with processed food.
Yeah. I don't think anybody denies the relationship between the whole ultra processed food thing and obesity. But what was interesting in one of the articles too was how it not just affects our physical health and weight, but our mental health, and how those who eat more highly ultra processed foods, they experience much higher degrees of depression and anxiety as well. And they've correlated it actually with prisoners in prison, how their diet was much higher than the norm of ultra processed foods.
And sugar.
And sugar, yeah. Sugar is the element that's ultra processed. You see, you take that sugar cane or that sugar beet, if you eat the sugar cane or the sugar beet whole, you're getting all those nutrients with it, all that fiber. So the amount of sugar that's in the sugar cane or the sugar beet is not a problem. But you ultra process it, you take everything else away.
You take all the good out of it.
Yeah, they even call it empty calories because there's nothing there but calories. And it's that calorie infusion that triggers the dopamine. They got us. Yeah. And another interesting thing that was in one of the articles is how one of the scientists was pointing out that so much of the public view of food focuses on just a single nutrient instead of considering the whole food. So you'll get a breakfast cereal fortified with iron and vitamin B6. And you go, whoa, I'm going for that one. This is a superfood, you know? And basically, they've stripped most all the nutrients out of everything in that. They've given you crunch, they've given you sugar, they've given you a little salt, all the things that hit the dopamine, not much in the way of nutrients, but they give you these two little nutrients that they can advertise. And we think, oh, that must mean it's good, without considering what that whole food, everything that's in that food we're eating, is providing us. So that has been kind of part of the issue too with how it's been marketed. We think we're eating healthy when we're eating highly processed, ultra processed, nutrient lacking food.
Yeah, you're talking about it makes me see very clearly that processed food, this highly processed food, is the gateway to health problems, to difficulty. And when you eat whole food, plant-based, the food in its whole form is so full of nutrients that the body uses. That's the gateway for the body to thrive. Yeah. So it's just, what do we want?
Yeah, and then it can take a little while to make that shift. You know, when we've gotten accustomed to the convenience, like they were saying, they're convenient, they're hyper-palatable, you know, meaning the taste there is just, it just kind of explodes in your mouth. And they're also profitable. So, I mean, the industry is going to keep pushing this stuff. So making that shift to whole food plant-based can have that period of time when there's still that memory of where's the explosion, you know, where's the dopamine hit. But our bodies do re-regulate. We've talked about that in past blogs. Our bodies re-regulate to really appreciate the levels of salt, oil, and fat that's in whole foods. Whole foods have salt, oil, and fat in them, but it's in the whole food form combined with all the fiber and everything. And we don't recognize that the sodium and the potassium and the magnesium that is in the food is what our body uses salt for. You know, you have sea salt because it brings all these minerals in. Those minerals are the salts, and those minerals in whole foods provide for the minerals we need that we say we need salt for. So it's there, the sugar levels, the oil levels, they're all there, and they will produce that same level of appreciation in the body, that same dopamine hit, as long as we've re-regulated to where that's the level that our bodies need, and it'll give us that effect, what we're looking for. That's when my body says, thank you.
Yeah, well, those first few weeks where it is a change and food may not taste as wonderful as it has in your memory, that's where we free ourselves from addiction. We're just allowing the body to cleanse and eliminate all those foods and chemicals that come from the highly processed way of life. And then food gets amazing, the way it tastes. Oh, over time, I can't believe it.
Yeah, so the whole experience of food will shift. But also, you know, what we were saying earlier about the mental side, when I would eat those those ultra-processed foods, I'd get jacked up too. You know, there's caffeine in there, there's sugar in there, like Connie was saying, and you kind of get jacked up. And, you know, what's your experience of life like when you're kind of on hyperdrive? And when we eat the whole foods, I notice there's a real calming effect.
That's true.
It's so satisfying.
And energizing. My energy is so great.
That's a good point. You know, it's like that.
And constant, steady.
Yeah. The caffeine is a kind of an energy hit, but it's a boop, boop. And when we do a whole food plant-based with those complex carbs, it's just a nice, steady energy.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe enough about that.
So the recipe, as Bill said, is so good. It's a strawberry pistachio nut salad that is delicious and quick and easy to make if you've got cooked grain on hand. So give it a go. It is one of the best we've tried, and we both said this will be a mainstay for us now. We love it. Yeah, we had it for lunch yesterday. It was delicious, and there was a little left over. And I had that with my breakfast this morning. Oh, just as good. Good. Really satisfying. Loved it. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.